with those cameras.
Alright, so these guys are gonna
Do I have to introduce myself like hi?
just say your name and stuff.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
What is something the big church or even the world should know about High Point Ministry?
That we are awesome and that we love each other.
Before I entered this ministry, I think I wish I would have known how inclusive it is and how just open and honest everybody is and welcoming people are.
I wish I would have known how close you got with people, you know, not just the students, the leaders, and how much it really, you know, makes you want to come back and be a part of it.
I would want younger students to know that they probably aren't the only ones who feel out of place sometime, and that even when they're kind of nervous about going, that they should really make a point to come to High Point.
I wish I would have known how accepting and how loving everyone is. The hardest part about it is just showing up, but once you show up, it's easy after that.
I guess I would have liked to known like all the relationships that I would have been able to build. I didn't start going until like senior year, and so I wasn't able to build these relationships early enough, and I kind of regret not going earlier.
One thing that I feel like they should know is that you need to build up relationships since your leaders are not going to change.
If you're really struggling with like friends or like a community to really grow in your faith or really learn about Christ, High Point is definitely like something that I've taken a lot of that from.
That High Point allows you to dive deeper. Like with the group conversations, you get to dive deeper instead of just learning about the big message. You get to actually develop your thoughts.
Something that I want parents and leaders to know is encourage, you know, the students to come, keep reaching out to them, make them feel welcome here at High Point, which you do a great job of already.
I feel like something that leaders could do to help improve High Point would just be to have some really good conversations about just some of the current issues of today that students face. From my experience, some of the best conversations that my group and I have been about things that are just really relevant to our lives.
High Point is a really great place to either start or continue growing your faith, and that it's really helpful for just improving relationships, creating relationships, and then ultimately like having the best relationship with God as possible.
Well, good morning. My name is Jake Karhoff, and over the past 9 years, I have had just the honor of being able to serve in our high school student ministry. And as Helga said, over this last year, I actually had the opportunity to step into a little bit bigger role in leading our high school ministry here at 84th Street. Part of this role is getting to lead a team of amazing leaders like Helga. I see a lot of them just in the congregation this morning. I might be a bit biased, but I think we have some of the best volunteers that you could find anywhere. We have, as a church, you guys should know that you guys have a remarkable team of leaders who love your students, who walk so faithfully with them over, if it's middle school, 3 years, if it's high school, 4 years. I couldn't do what I do without them, and I wouldn't want to. There are just certain things in life that you shouldn't try to do on your own. A few months ago, I started a pottery class, and as a part of this pottery class, you show up the first night, and after a way too short demo of what you're supposed to do, they give you clay, they give you a wheel, and they say, go for it. So I had never even looked at pottery, but I've looked at pottery. I've never seen a wheel, never done any of this. So I take my ball of clay and I throw it down on the wheel, and I know that, like logically, I know that it's going to take me some time to get good at making pottery. But still, there's this like slight thought in the back of my mind that I'm going to turn this clay into something special. Like I have like a vase in mind, something awesome. And so I throw the clay on the wheel, start spinning it, and 15 minutes later, I am covered in clay. And what I have left, I learned that in starting out in pottery, you play a game called What Is It? So I have this clay that it could be a bowl, but the edges aren't quite tall enough to be a bowl. It really looks like an ashtray. And I'm not a smoker. I don't know anybody that smokes, actually. But after my first few attempts, I have more ashtrays than anybody ever needs. But so what I learned was that pottery is hard. But fortunately, there were other people in the class with me that were a little bit more experienced. They were helpful. We had an instructor that was so helpful and patient, and by the end of the 8 weeks, I actually was able to make a few things that I was actually proud of. But as I reflected on it, this is really kind of the way life is. There are certain things that we just shouldn't try to do alone. And I really think if you're like me, you've tried probably more times than you should to go it alone. Life is like that, and faith is like that. We weren't meant to do faith, to follow Jesus in a vacuum. We need other people in our lives, other people who have been there before us that can show us the way, that can help support us and pray for us and lift us up. And I think serving in high school ministry has taught me that more than anything else. The best part, the very best part about serving students is getting to see them really own their faith. This means they move from the faith that they grew up with, the faith of their parents, the faith of their grandparents, and they really get to explore and figure out what it means to have a faith of their own. To get to be even a small part of that is just really humbling and so rewarding. But this morning, I'm so excited because instead of me getting to tell you about it, we get to show you it. I am so thrilled to have 3 graduating seniors up here with me to help bring you a message that I think perfectly reflects this idea of a faith journey and what it means to pursue Jesus as a community. So with that, I would like to invite Levi.
Hi, my name is Levi. I just graduated from East Kentwood High School. And as Jake said, there's certain things, especially your faith, that you need help with. You can't do it on your own. And the goal of High Point is to get you to own your faith and make it your own. So I was asked to share a little bit about how a faith of your own doesn't mean a faith on your own. So for most of my life, when I was younger, I struggled fitting in and feeling accepted in certain places, especially school. I always felt like I was different and an outsider, especially because I grew up without a dad. And it seemed like most of my friends and most of the people who I went to school with had a dad. So I couldn't, relate to them in that kind of way. I was always mad. I felt disconnected from God. I was always a Christian because I grew up, in the church and in a Christian household. But I wasn't, living a Christian lifestyle. So that also kind of made me feel like an outsider at church. And I always knew that there was something missing, as, not having a dad. But I didn't know that hole in my life could be filled by Jesus and my faith. So as I said, I didn't have my own faith. I was living off of my grandparents' faith and my mom's faith. And eventually I figured it out that I needed to own my faith, make it my own, but I couldn't have figured it out on my own. And all 3 of the people up here with me have been a huge part of my faith journey, helping me own my faith. And most of the other seniors and all of the leaders have been a huge part of that. So as I mentioned before, I grew up without a dad. And not having a dad, as I'm sure you can imagine, can be pretty hard, especially being a male. I didn't have anyone that I could be vulnerable with, that I could open up to. But luckily for me, through church, sports, and other things, I got plenty of male role models that I could look up to and especially at church, Christian male role models that could help me, keep me on my right path so that I didn't, drop out of school and stuff. So this helped me stay on the right track and eventually establish my faith. It wasn't until high school, though, when I started diving deeper into my faith and making it my own. So freshman year was when I started going to High Point consistently. I was starting to make friends, but I wasn't super close with them yet. I talk a lot, but I'm pretty shy, like when it comes to small groups, because I don't like to be vulnerable, Then sophomore year, I took a huge change in my faith. At the beginning of the year, we had a fall retreat, and we were asked to write down a question in our journal that they gave us for God. And I wrote down, "Can you hear me?" Because I didn't have that relationship with Jesus that, the leaders were telling me that they had. And then I asked for a leaf as a sign, because, it was fall, the trees were changing colors. That's the first thing that I thought of. And I was still in that questioning phase of my faith, still not totally sold. So later that day, during quiet time, I was praying when a huge gust of wind blew, opened up my journal to the page where I wrote down that question, and a leaf fell on it. So I was like, yeah, that's not a coincidence. So right then and there, from that point on, I've been, that sold it. Like there truly is a God, and he can hear me. He does love me. So that year, I started truly diving deeper into my faith. I wanted to know God. I wanted to have a relationship with him. Then junior year, the end of sophomore year and beginning of junior year, when COVID started shutting everything down, that especially as, very young in my faith journey, it was really hard not being able to go to church. All the relationships that I built up throughout youth group, I couldn't, it's not the same texting and stuff than it is meeting in person, especially consistently every Sunday. So I fell off a little bit in my faith journey, which everyone does. It was a difficult, year and a half, 2 years for everyone. And although I stumbled a little bit in my journey, the leaders and the connections that I made at church, we were able to hold each other accountable. And when we came back, it took a little getting used to with, it changed life for everybody. But throughout all the struggles from junior year, especially the Mexico trip not happening for me, I was really excited for that. And, as the other two seniors up here, it was a rough time. But all of the hardships that happened junior year, it made senior year that much better for me. So now, having just finished my senior year of high school, I've become closer with God and closer with the friendships that I've made in youth group. And I've grown more in my faith than ever before this year, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without my friends and the leaders that I have, keeping me accountable. And the Mexico trip this year is when I became closest with God. As I'm sure most of you have heard, our flight got delayed trying to get to Mexico, and then we somehow caught a plane with we had like 22 students or people or something like that, and they had 23 seats available. And, coincidences like that don't just happen. Like with my Leaf story, it's not a coincidence. And a lot of us seniors took full advantage of that trip since we didn't get it our junior year. So that, again, made it that much more enjoyable. And, some of us got stuck at the border. Not me, though, but... But so we were truly able to see God on that trip, and even though I was already sold on my faith, it really helped solidify my faith and my journey. And it was the thing about the Mexico trip that was more special than any retreat that I've ever been on is how close the select few seniors and juniors got, being able to be vulnerable with each other. You know, I said some things to them that I've never told anyone before in my life. So I became friends with people that I never thought I would be close friends with. Aaron up here and another person who went to Mexico, we have a group chat where we keep each other accountable from some stuff that we mentioned to each other in Mexico. And I'm still growing in my faith, you know, I'm only 17. But it's a faith of my own that I'm able to, you know, it's different from my grandparents and my mom and my leaders and my friends. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without the leaders encouraging me and my friends keeping me accountable. And God purposely puts people in your life that when he knows you're struggling and he knows that you need that, it may take, you know, it's his timeline. You know, it may take a little longer than you thought, but you just, you know, you have to pray about it. You have to come to him, and he knows what you need and when you need it. And I now have friends that are going to be friends for a lifetime because they helped me own my faith. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Julia. I recently graduated from Forest Hills Central. And in addition to being involved with High Point, I also am a midpoint small group leader. So my girls are now going to be freshmen. I started with them as 6th graders. So that has been quite a journey and a lot of fun to be involved with. So I'm extremely nervous, so just bear with me. So are you someone who has tried to approach their faith on their own? One of the best ways to seek a deeper, more personal relationship with Jesus is to pursue community. But why is community so important? It's important because we weren't meant to do life by ourselves. We weren't meant to be alone. Life is hard enough as it is, but it's even harder when you're by yourself. Satan is so set on making us feel so alone and separating us from God. But when we have a community around us, it makes it so much easier to stick together for Christ and for each other and to not let Satan win. God created us for connection and community. People need people, and God knew that. These past few years have been extremely hard and difficult, and the pandemic was so isolating, and it made it hard for there to be connection and community. People are still trying to recover from that. When Jesus was facing death on the cross, right before he was arrested and taken away, he said a prayer, and John recorded this prayer. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, and that they may be one as we are one. I in them, and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. The prayers that we pray reveal so much about our hearts. And right before Jesus was arrested and taken to the cross to die for us, he prayed for you and me. He could have prayed for anything, but he prayed that we would be brought to complete unity, that we would come together as a community. So growing up, I didn't always have a community. I didn't have the community that I now have. Although faith has always played somewhat of a role in my life, I never had a solid group to walk in faith with. Throughout middle school, I struggled with friends, and I often settled for anybody that would give me the time of day, even if it meant disregarding my own morals and values at times. I allowed myself to be walked over by people who I thought were my friends, and I often found myself holding back tears until I got home. I felt alone, and I felt like I had nobody. After a really rough few middle school years, high school rolled around, and I was at an all-time low. I struggled to understand why nobody wanted to be my friend, why nobody showed interest in me and my life, and I questioned my faith, my worth and my faith became stagnant. So fall of freshman year was approaching, which meant High Point was starting. And my sisters and I were relatively new to the church, so we decided, let's just give it a chance. I was haunted by the feeling that somehow these people wouldn't like me. So I held back, and I was closed off, and I kept to myself. As time went on, my walls grew shorter, and my voice grew louder. And I began to realize that these people within this church, within High Point, within this community were different. They were different from past friendships that I desperately tried to maintain. They truly wanted to know me and walk with me in my faith. They asked me questions and encouraged me. I chose to be vulnerable with them because they chose to be vulnerable with me. When I began truly pursuing community within High Point, faith became so much more tangible because I wasn't doing it on my own. I found a group that would hold me accountable, a group that would pray with me, with and for me, and a group that genuinely cared about my faith. Throughout High Point specifically, God provided me a community that challenged me to be vulnerable and grow, a community that challenged me to always turn to God, and a community that challenged me to keep pursuing a faith of my own. In 4 short years, my senior group went from almost complete strangers to a family-like group. This year, we would go get froyo after High Point, and some of the most valuable conversations we had ever had happened at froyo. We were able to have such conversations because we made the commitment to show up and to pursue community, because we knew that a faith of our own didn't equal faith on our own. When it comes to pursuing community, the hardest part is showing up, especially to a place that you're unfamiliar with and people you don't know. But when you start showing up consistently for each other and for Christ, your faith grows so much deeper than you ever thought was possible. If I didn't make the choice to show up to High Point, then I definitely wouldn't be standing up here this morning. Sharing my faith with all of you is extremely terrifying, but it's also extremely rewarding. I know that today is about Senior Sunday and High Point, but I want you guys all to know that community is not just limited to High Point. Cornerstone offers so many opportunities for people to get connected and involved. Look into starting Midpoint if you're a 6th through 8th grader. Join 4-5s if you're a 4th or 5th grader. Parents, get your littles involved in Corner Kids, and also consider joining life groups and support groups yourselves. Above all, my advice to you is this: pursue a community that is pursuing Christ.
So as Julia said, Jesus prays for us as a community, which is really good, I think, because being in community with other people is really hard. I don't know if you've tried to be in community with others recently, but it's tough. People are on edge, and for good reason. The whole world is full of hot button issues that bring so much tension, and that tension over time leads to divisions. But being in community has always been hard. From almost the beginning of humanity, there's been broken people, and that brokenness over time, it leads to a friction that's really hard to reconcile. I think Jesus knew this to be true, so he prays for us specifically. Look what he says again in John chapter 17. It says, "I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity." So in order to pursue Jesus as community, we need to also take extra care to pursue unity. As a community of Christ, we're called to be of one heart and one mind. Earlier this year, we had a series where we talked about that as our vision for the church this year, that we would be one. In that series, we looked at the book of Ephesians, and we talked about as a church, we need to strive to be one, and we need to be the place in the middle where people on both sides can come and seek Jesus together. But even in the context of church, unity is really hard. And I think that's one of the most countercultural things that I've experienced serving in high school ministry. I already talked about how awesome our leaders are, but there's something really unique about our leader group and the unity that we have. The leader group that we have really is like a life group. We come from all sorts of different backgrounds. We have differences of opinions on how to run ministry. We have people on both sides of the political spectrum. Yet, we have one thing that we're focused on, and that's loving Jesus and serving students in Jesus' name. And it turns out that if you can agree on a few really important things, then all of those other differences that we have just fizzle away and become much less important. In our at High Point, we celebrate diversity. We celebrate different perspectives, different experiences, but we really do a great job of focusing on that one goal of helping people know Jesus and making him known. And High Point is essentially just a church within a church. And the church is a really unique place where people can come to with all different backgrounds, all different ideas. As Helga said, our students come from all different schools. They have different interests. They have different political beliefs. They have different opinions. Yet, we find unity. We have a mindset at High Point that if you're a human being between 9th and 12th grade, you belong. What if we were a church that thought like that? This is so awesome, and what's so special about a community of God's people, that if we can focus on what unites us, we can see Jesus work in some really amazing ways. And to close, we're going to bring Aaron up here to talk about the fruit that comes from having unity within their group.
Well, hello again. Oops. My name is Aaron Taher. I've been raised in a Christian family, so naturally I've been part of the youth ministry here since like Corner Kids, since like 5th grade, 4th grade. And I really started committing myself and making my faith my own in 8th grade when I started doing confirmation. And that was such a fun time to really invest and learn more about that during the class. And I continued to invest and go to youth group during midpoint, High Point. There was a period of time, though, in between middle school and high school when I felt pretty lonely and I didn't have many friends. Being homeschooled as well, it was kind of hard to find a lot of friends like that. But as I continued to build up my connections and relationships at High Point, my grade class of 2022, we just started really bonding. I really realized how important it is to have these connections. We had a lot of curves thrown at us, a lot of, COVID and stuff like that, like everyone around here right now. And we learned that from one another's faith stories, we can depend on each other and each other's support. So you definitely have seen me play keys before. Started playing keys in 8th grade, and that was fine, super comfortable doing that. But then at the start of the school year, the former youth ministry lead asked me if I wanted to sing. I'm like, I guess I could, but I'm not really comfortable with that so much. And, eventually I started singing after a lot of push and support from others. And I realized how the support and the push from others made me feel way more comfortable singing. I even started leading worship for Midpoint, being a leader there as well. And I told them, guys, you just make it so comfortable. You guys are all so awesome. So now I've started singing here as well, which is kind of nerve-wracking, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I've continued to just experience the support of my small group and see God work in amazing ways throughout that with all my struggles. When we pursue community and pursue unity like this, we are able to have a healthy faith of our own, not just on our own. That way, we can see more of God together. Together we can celebrate each other. Together we can see where God is working in one another's lives, and we can get inspired by that. We get each other encouraged. We support and lift up each other. Despite each other's differences, you can still all do these things. Despite, what opinions, don't let the devil and, their opinions of that separate that potential relationship. So John 17:25-26, it says, "Righteous Father, though the world does not know you, I know you, and they know that you have sent me. I made you known to them and will continue to make you known, in order that the love you have shown for me may be in them, and that I myself may be in them." When we are in a united community, Jesus as our focus, his promise is that he will continue to make himself known to us. We will see more of what Jesus is doing around and through us. And I have definitely experienced that throughout our small group. We had the awesome opportunity, like Levi was sharing earlier, to serve and share the gospel to a community in Mexico. It was such an unforgettable memory to share Christ to those who haven't heard of it. And just the teamwork of doing that with the group really got us in a deeper relationship. We were able to share and completely open up everything that holds us back, everything we think about ourselves. And me and Luke and Levi, we both had that group chat to keep each other accountable. Every day we would text each other, "Hey, how you guys doing? Was it a win yesterday? Was it a loss?" And that's been super helpful. It's been helpful to grow my faith throughout that, which went through and strengthened our senior class as well as a small group. To the point now where we can share anything with each other. We are now super good friends on a deeper level, and we actually have like a full bucket list of things we want to get done during the summer before we kind of separate in our own ways. So, and I just wanted to say to our leaders as well, from the very start, our leaders, they showed us and led the way to become a close set of people. They're the ones that first pushed us to ask the tough questions and spark the energy of unity we have now. They put in the work and the effort to pour and invest in their Sunday nights and much more to us. For leaders out there, thank you. We wouldn't be here without your commitment. It has been such an incredible journey to engage and to take part in this group. But as we go into our separate ways, whether like staying local or going to college or taking a gap year like me, we will stay in touch, and we know who to talk to, who to reach out to when we have tough times in life. But the devil will constantly try to disconnect and drown your sights from God and the community. There's a constant spiritual battle going on there. And that's why it's truly the best opportunity to walk along others in community, to fight back. Instead of just 1v1, it's 2v1, You will learn from each other and be stronger against the devil together. We are meant for these connections, to keep each other accountable, to share deeper struggles, learn and grow in those moments. That is how God works through us. And we get to be a part of that. And we get to be a witness to that. God gave us this gift to share and spread his word to others. Don't just leave that gift on the side. Use it. If you make a gift for someone, you're not going to just be like, you got to take it. You got to use it. And he wants his children to all be in unity. So let's do that together. Thank you.
So if you're listening this morning and you're a student, I hope that you're encouraged by what you see up here. Selfishly, my heart, I would love for you to come here and get connected at High Point, at Midpoint. But even if it's at another church, our heart is that you look for the connection that these guys have talked about. If you're here this morning and you feel a stirring, this holy disturbance on your heart that maybe being a leader of students is something that you're interested in, I would love to talk to you after the service. You can find Helga to talk to her after the service, or you can go on cornerstonemi.org/serve and mark that you're interested in serving students. These guys are a great example of what it looks like to seek community, to prioritize unity within that community, and when we do so, we see God working in amazing ways. It's not every day as a leader that you get to experience the fruit of what walking with students for 4 years looks like, but this morning has been special. These students are special, and it takes a lot of courage to come up here and share, so I don't know if you want to join me in just applauding them. Well done, guys. All right, would you guys pray with me? Dear Jesus, thank you for just the message you have placed on these students' hearts. Thank you that regardless of what age you are, we can humbly come and listen and learn from students. Lord, I pray over this church that we would be a community that has eyes and ears for people that are seeking you, that are on the margins of society, that we would make a space for them in this community. And as we walk towards you in community, I pray that we would seek unity, that we would prioritize that. And Lord, your promise to us is that when we do so, you will continue to reveal yourselves to us. So Lord, I just pray that you would reveal your glory in this church, so that we would be like a lamp on a hill, that people would be drawn to us because of the love that we have, the unity that we have, and in doing so that they would be drawn closer to you. Lord, we lift all of this up in Jesus' holy name. Amen.